So I just wanted to talk a little bit about MMA versus street self-defense. What are the differences? What are the pros and cons of maybe learning MMA or Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu or whatever for the purposes of learning to defend yourself? Now, I trained in MMA for quite a few years. I'm fairly good on the ground and stand up. Um, I don't claim to be a world-class fighter or anything, but I definitely have, many years of MMA training. There's a lot of value in it. I developed, my striking and grappling abilities quite a bit. And of course, since you're rolling a lot, sparring a lot, you learn to kind of flow. You learn to take impact. Lots of good things to say about MMA. I'm in no way anti-MMA. I'm in no way dissing anybody. But I guess kind of where I have a problem is when this is presented as if it is real world self-defense. Now, a lot of times there's kind of talk, bickering between MMA guys and traditional martial arts guys. People arguing about, traditional martial arts are fake or they're useless. MMA is real. And of course, the MMA guys will usually say, oh, well, if Wing Chun or whatever, Aikido is so effective, why don't you bring it in the ring and see what happens? Look, I've got quite a bit of background in traditional martial arts too. I'm a black belt in traditional martial arts, taught traditional martial arts for a while. There's a lot of value in it, just like there's a lot of value in MMA, but clearly, from what I've seen, for the most part, when Wing Chun or Aikido guys go against like Muay Thai or Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu guys, the outcome always seems to go the same way. Traditional martial arts are not all created equal either, by the way. So, like, keep in mind, most traditional martial arts, other than like some of the goofy Shaolin tiger style praying mantis and all that kind of hokey stuff, I mean, like legitimate, like traditional martial arts, classical jiu-jitsu, for example, or whatever. These are arts that developed on the ancient battlefield, back before guns and long-range weapons, well, maybe bow and arrow. But basically, people were fighting in close combat with handheld weapons, knives, spears, swords, maybe axes, all kinds of things like that. So, if you're trying to get close to reality, or the reality of like street fighting, for example, I would say a lot of those classical arts actually have a little bit more merit. They're more proven in battle as compared to MMA, which is proven in the ring. It's a sport. It has nothing to do with life and death battles. So, traditional martial arts, I'm saying the best of them. They incorporate, on the battlefield, there's multiple attackers by definition. You're not necessarily just locked into a duel with one guy with a sword. While you're fighting him, his friend could stab you in the back or cut your head off. So I think the traditional martial arts grew out of more of a 360-degree awareness. And obviously they took weapons into account. So those are some ways why I think that you could argue that traditional martial arts are better. Now, the way traditional martial arts is taught these days, has it lost some of that realism? Has it become too, formulated? Yeah. The way it's taught now, it's kind of silly. I think back in the day, original karate, original jiu-jitsu was probably no joke. Those dudes would probably murder a Brazilian jiu-jitsu guy, like in the real world. But, now the guys that teach it don't really train it under duress, don't really pressure test their stuff. And so it just ends up being weak. Anytime you detach your training from real world testing, you're going to suffer. Now, so that's one of the ways that I think MMA is better. They are at least pressure testing themselves, but not in real world situations, only in, sports situations. And so that's worth pointing out. Now, so some of the other downsides to MMA, or like kind of sport fighting. Number one, it assumes a one-on-one contest. So they're not training for 2 or 3 or more attackers. Typically, you're assuming that there's no weapons. So they definitely suffer when it comes to, weapons, multiple attackers, plus they train and compete on a mat. Fighting on concrete, which is what's most likely in the real world, is a very different beast. So if you really want to punish yourself, get out in the parking lot outside your Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu school or whatever, and roll in the parking lot and see how that changes the game. How much do you want to be on your back with some other dude in your guard? I mean, how much do you really want to even bust your kneecaps and stuff, trying to do a double leg, single leg takedown and all that kind of stuff? Now, I'm just saying, being on concrete does change things. If you don't believe me, get out and train on concrete like I do routinely. Your game will change and evolve, I promise, just like mine has. Also, train with multiple attackers. Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, let's say I do a double leg takedown, I mount you and I'm just going to ground and pound. That's all well and good in a one-on-one contest. But what if there's 2 or 3 guys? Now, okay, I've got you mounted, I'm grounding and pounding, meanwhile your friend's just like busting me up the side of the head. It's not going to go so good for me, is it? Or even things like you're in my guard and I'm trying to set you up for a triangle choke or, scissor sweep or whatever. But while I'm on my back on the concrete, mind you, your friend is trying to kick and stomp me in the head while I'm trying to, sink a triangle choke on you. All of a sudden, a lot of grappling goes out the window. A lot of grappling also goes out the window when you introduce eye gouging and biting. So let's say you're on the back, I'm in your guard. Meanwhile, your spine is getting crushed into the concrete because I'm going to be rough with you. But let's say you're trying to pull my head down so I can't get up and open up on you. You pull my head down like into your chest or whatever, I'm biting your fucking nipple off. You're going to let my head go. I'm going to pop up and now I'm swinging on you. Or more likely than not, I'm going to pass your guard street style and stomp your head in. So what do I mean by pass your guard street style? Well, the way Jiu-Jitsu, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is normally trained, I'm going to do a guard pass that maybe puts me in side control, and then eventually I'm going to try to take top mount. Again, the reality of street fighting, number one, that's more time consuming. It's going to slow me down. It's less effective in my opinion. I mean, compared to just getting up and stomping your head in. But then, number two, like I said, while I'm in side mount, top control and all that, your friend can be punching me in the back of the head, like kicking me, stabbing me, whatever. So those are not very effective strategies. So pretty much the only guard pass that I really like is, I don't know what it's called, but I mean, you'll find guys showing it on internet. Basically you pin the hips, put the knee across the belly, kind of pop yourself up, sweep the leg over, and you're standing. It's quick. I'd have to demonstrate it. I don't know the name of the technique. I'm sure it has one. But it's kind of like a knee across the belly guard pass. Guys that are really into jiu-jitsu and stuff, you'll probably know what I'm talking about. As far as I'm concerned, that is the only guard pass you really need for street fighting. Now, the only other one, so that's if my head's up. If you've got my head down, you've pulled my head down, then all I really need is to bite you, maybe put my thumbs in your eyes, and I'm going to be able to pop my head up and do that guard pass. So it's not the only guard pass I know, but as far as I'm concerned, that's the only guard pass you really need. It doesn't hurt to learn one or two more just to be thorough. But as far as in street fight, especially if I'm dealing with 2 or 3 guys, do I really want to be thinking about, oh, do I do this guard pass or that one? No, I want one that's kind of my go-to. It's just automatic. I'm on the ground in his guard, I'm going to pop up, pass his leg, stomp his head in, move on to the next one. Quick, effective, brutal as shit. Obviously you can't stomp people's heads in to the concrete in MMA and, you know, competition, so they don't train that. Because they don't train it, because it's illegal in contest, you know, they don't train it. Therefore, even though they could, you know, rationally you think, oh, well, they could do it, but they don't, because they don't train it. It's not on the edge of their mind. For me, it is, because that's all I train. You see the difference? Now, if I have the other guy mounted, I'm not trying to set up some arm bar or anything hokey like that. I'm not even going to ground and pound. I might throw 1 or 2 punches. My only purpose for that is just so I can go to the 1 knee up, 1 knee down position to set myself up to pop up real quick, stomp his head in, and then clear. By clear, I mean I'm done with him. I've already stomped his head into the concrete. I'm going on to his friends. Now, ideally, his incapacitated body on the ground is between me and his friend so that it creates a barrier. Pretty often, you know, when I run drills, kind of sparring with 2 or 3 people, if the other guy kind of tries to step across his friend somehow, a lot of times they may be able to grab him, just kind of jerk him, and he ends up tripping over his friend. Now he's on the ground. I can stomp his head in a couple of times and I'm done, or on to the third and hopefully final one. Because hopefully it's not more than 2 or 3 people. It may be. Obviously in that situation, your best bet is to get the fuck out of there as quick as you can. If that's not an option, then the less time you spend fucking up each one of them, the better it's going to be for you. Because if you get locked into some grappling match with the first one or the second one, now the third one is going to start breaking you down. So I mean, there's a lot more to it than just what I've described here. But hopefully even just here I've given you some things to think about, and hopefully you can begin to see why, you know, not only traditional martial arts, but even MMA, as much as that's glorified, is not the same as street self-defense. Street self-defense is a completely different animal. It's got to be based on fighting on concrete, possibly in the dark, maybe in a stairway, maybe confined quarters, probably multiple attackers or someone with a weapon. Because you got to think, why is it that this person or this group of people feels confident attacking you? Well, either because you're unarmed and they have a weapon, or because you're alone, or maybe with one other person or something. Like they have you outnumbered, they have you outgunned, maybe they have the element of surprise or something like that. So it's not going to be a fair fight, one-on-one, with no weapons in a ring on a mat, is what I'm saying. So MMA, although I've trained MMA, again, I'm not dissing MMA. So I don't need any Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu or Muay Thai guys coming in and saying, whoa, dude, cool. Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is awesome. I've trained in it some myself. Also done combat submission wrestling, which I believe is better than Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu myself. And I'm mostly trained no gi, because you're certainly not going to be wearing a gi on the street. And whoever's attacking you is not going to be wearing a gi. I mean, unless you're just like rolling up outside a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu dojo talking shit, which I don't recommend. But yeah, those are just some of my thoughts on street self-defense, MMA, and traditional martial arts. You know, tell me what you think in the comments. Try to keep it civil. I've been respectful. Please be. I always respect other people's training, even if it's different from mine. But I'm telling you my opinions. And I'm giving the reasons and arguments for my opinions. So, you're welcome to do the same. And let me check out the comments, do some more videos soon. Thanks for watching.